G'day and welcome back to my channel. Now here is the Slippery Schlepper. Yes, when we left it last time I just started doing the mud effects, but since then I've also put on a flat coat and I've pulled off the masks so we can now see inside those windows and you can actually see inside of the interior. But more of that later. I'll talk about the weathering, well the mud effect, which I did. It's exactly the same as I've done just about every other track vehicle, with variations just to make them look a little bit different. And I've used Humbrol weathering powder, essentially, and some Ammo MIG pigment fixer. And that's all I've used. Now that is shown in great detail in a how-to video, or how I do video. I'll put the link for that there at the bottom of the description screen thing, whatever. You'll find it. Just have a look on the YouTube channel. Now, no need for me to go over that again. You can just watch that if you want to know how I did my mud effects. Now, they went on very nicely and I did them pretty heavy underneath and inside there because, you know, this thing is going to slop around in the mud quite a bit. And I've splashed up, in fact, it was a bit of serendipity that while I was slopping the mud in, I got a few blobs on the side here of the hull. So I just feathered them up with a brush and I actually got a very nice effect. So I went, yippee, I'm going to stay with that. Yes, that's good. And then I put my matte coat over. Now I put my matte coat over the pigments because although the fixer kind of holds them in place, I've had pigments still fall off unless you seal them again with the matte coat. So I do the matte coat now before we do any more weathering. It also helped me seal in the decals therein, and it gave me an idea of how the whole thing would tone down because the matte coat took away a lot of the shine, and it's also brought down my grey because a few people were very worried it was a really dark grey. Well, as you can see, the colours kind of change as you work through various layers of dry brushing and, you know, your pre-shading and then eventually putting your flat coat on, things start to slowly die down. So yes, I started a bit darker than I needed, slowly worked my way down. But I've got a nice graduation here from the lighter grey on the hull all the way through down to there. And yet everything was painted the same colour, but that's the effects. Now I've also, you may notice the bumpers, talk about that in a sec, I've also put some nice brass on my screws. Don't they look good? They're all nice and shiny now. Yes. Both set of track links are all done. They're all weathered up. Well, what has really happened in the last few days and what I'm really excited about is I have started attaching my bumpers. And these are the homemade ones that I made. The macrame bumpers, as I call them. I actually weaved them myself. Go back and watch that video if you missed it. But I actually created and weaved these bumpers out of cotton thread. So they've gone on, and it took me a few goes to work out a successful method for attaching them, but it really isn't all that hard. And that's going to be one of the main focuses of this video. Oh, you might be able to see. Can you see in the window there? You can actually see inside now. Yep, you can see in, you can see the, I'll show you more of that later in photos. But the clear windows have really put a lot of light on the inside of the Schlepper. So I'm very happy with that. And it's sort of been some of the final touches, just opening up those windows, putting on the bumpers while we go. Now the bumpers are going to need to be stained because I want them to look more like the photo on the box art. Yeah. I've kind of based a lot of my look on the box art, and that's how I wanted this kit to look. That's why I bought the kit. I saw that lovely box art pic and I went, yes, that's what I want. I want a snaily mouth, I want mud, I want this, I want that. And I was sadly disappointed we didn't have bumpers in the kit. But we've got around that. I've made them. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is add the last bumper on. Now you'll notice I have tapered the end. And you can see it here. I tapered both the end of the front one and this one. And they're only just, they're not completely set yet. I've got to actually bind those together or do something with those. At the moment everything is set in. In fact, this whole bumper is only sitting there by friction. But I won't take it off because it's sitting so nicely. But my method that I'm going to show you allows you a lot of fit and fettle. Like anything I do, I need a root around time because I make mistakes or things go wrong and I don't want to be locked in that everything's glued down. So the method I'm going to show you that that I eventually worked out for putting on my macrame bumpers gave me all that flexibility. All right, the only other thing left is there's a little bag here. That's all that's left to put on. There's some windscreen wipers, which I've got a CA glue on to the front of the cabin here. And I've got a few more bits and pieces to go on the inside. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's all that's in there. Everything else got put on. I had to CA glue the hook back on a few times. Eventually, when I'd knocked it off about 3 times while I was fiddling and faffing around with everything, I just left it off. I thought, well, if you're going to stay off, you'll stay off. And the same with like the mirrors didn't go on until absolute last minute. Those little mirrors there. So little fiddly things like that, I only choose to do them when I'm really finished. So the cabin, at least the top part, which is still removable, is still completely, let me find a spot where I might grubby something up, that is still completely removable, okay? So what we're going to do now is, we need that cabin off. Oh, I'll give you a quick squeeze inside. See, I painted up the interior, so it is ready to go. I did dull down things a bit. The interior went to more of a cream colour, just a slight cream. You'll notice the dash is still pretty well white. And I left it that way to see how much light was coming in the windows. And I'm going to leave the dash more white, but I've left the inside here cream. I've also done the same cream trick with all the open hatches, because they were very bright and very white, and people were worried that spotter planes would be flying over and easily find my schlepper. So they've done. I've done a bit of chipping on them as well, but you'll see all that in photos later. I'll show that in detail. It'll be much easier for you to see than my wobbly hands. All right, well, that's enough waffling, Harry Houdini. Let's put some bumpers on my slippery schlepper. Now, what I eventually discovered was the easiest way was to use some brass rod to make little pins that would actually then stab into the bumpers, and that gave me the best way to locate them, but also gave me a way to adjust them, that if I wasn't happy with the tension or the sag, or just I needed to pull it off, because like the bow one, I still need to do a bit more reshaping on that. Once I'd put it on, I noticed a few things that weren't evident when it was off. So I've going to learn as I go, and I'll do a bit of squeezing and shaping and tie a bit tighter in some sections with the bow one, which would be lucky for those people that have ordered a set of schlepper bumpers from me, that I will have it all worked out that when I make theirs, they should fit perfectly. So to attach this onto here, what I need to do is use my pin vise to drill some holes, and then CA glue in the pins and attach the bumpers. Now, I tried a few ways of putting the pins in first, then trying to shove the bumpers on, and that was hopeless. Eventually, the best method that I'm going to show you now was to actually drill the hole, mark up where the hole's going to go on the bumper, drill the hole in the bumper, drill a hole in cotton. Believe me, this is the step that saves you so much disaster. And then poke the rod through, CA glue, push in, cut off, clip, done. Okay, that's the short version. Let me show you in detail now. So first off, I'm going to need a drill bit. Now, the brass rod that I've chosen for this is some Aber 0.5, which is just what I had. And that's perfect for my needs, and I've got a 0.5 drill bit. Now, the very first one that I'm going to need to locate is here. Now, I've used these little sort of marks, which I think are probably tithe points, which is probably how you should be doing all your ties and everything. But look, it doesn't matter. I don't think they line up. I've seen so many different versions of these bumpers. You have a look in the research. Some are long, some are short, some are fat, some are round, some are thin. Some of them are more Hessian-y tie at the front. Some of them have got segregated segments. It's just bumpers, ship's bumpers. They vary on what resources are available, so don't stress too much. But first of all, I'm going to need a hole here, which is going to be my starting spot. So perpendicular to the model. Don't have to worry about accuracy, as long as it basically is underneath that spot, because that will be necessary later. Talk amongst yourselves, there's a bit of drilling involved here, isn't there? Oh, don't remember it being this thick. Come on! Oh, there we go. Oh, it's such a lovely feeling when you break through, isn't it? Right, onto my trusty little toothbrush. I always keep a toothbrush while I'm modelling, because I like good dental hygiene. No, it is really good for cleaning off plastic and junk and gunk. Okay, so that's there, and my rod Okay, now I haven't cut a tiny piece to shape because I tried that. That doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work for me with my wobbly hands. So that should go in there. It's pretty tight. That's exactly what I want. Because it'll pretty well sit there without too much convincing. So we don't want to worry that hole any bigger. Now the next thing that I need to do is I'm going to need a pencil. Oh, there's always things you need, right? So I will need a pencil. And I've got a little HB pencil here. It's just a hard black sketching pencil. Now the bumpers go, I think they go underneath. Yeah, they go underneath for the overlap. Okay, and we can fiddle with that later. Remembering that's the one that I want. So I need about that much overlap. Okay, that's the one that I want. So I need my hole to be there. Okay, so I'll need a hole at that spot. And again, I use my trusty little... Oh, you got to work out which is your back and which is your front. For me, the back of my bumper is where the knots have been tied. So the front of my bumper is where the knots haven't been tied. Okay, so check and double check. There's my mark there. Now you get a little bit of wriggle room. The beauty of this being cotton is the hole is really more of a push through. So actually I drill in both directions. I actually go both ways and wriggle it through. But having that hole is going to make your life so much easier. Okay, so now we need a rod. And while we know exactly where our hole is, because it will close up very quickly, find that hole. Find the hole, Harry. Story of your life. Ugh. Okay, now that's through there. Now you'll see the method of my madness. And now, again, everything's about test, fit. But that's in. So that will be my first one. Yes, that's where I want it. It's going to sit about there. That'll be good. I found the bumper set just kind of hanging below that gunnel there, sort of thing. Okay, so notice because I've got a great big long piece of brass, because I've drilled the hole first and then I've basically mated up, matched to the bumper, I've got all this control. I've got a thing to hold. I've got, you know, believe me, this is so much easier. I tried cutting pins the correct size. I tried putting pins in there and pushing the bumpers on. All of those things failed or broke off as I was doing it. This was so easy. So what I'll do now is I'm going to put a tiny dab of CA glue on there so we can lock this into position. Now I'm using slow setting zap. Slow zap. Yeah, I love this stuff. It for me in my climate, I know a lot of people go, oh, I need hardener, I need this, I need that. I never do. I never do at all. Or, you know, or kicker or whatever it is. Okay, so I've still got my little arrangement here, right? So what I'm going to do is I just need the tiniest bit of CA glue on that. So I've got my CA glue here. And again, I've got something to hold. Everything is designed that I do for wobbly hands, eyes that can't see, and just general old man problems. So I have these solutions. So that should now go into that hole. I can never see what I'm doing on these bloody videos. So there's the hole there. Yeah, in you go. In you go, Rod. Okay. Oh, this works so much better in rehearsal. Okay, taking the weight off that a little bit. We'll just allow that to set. And everything's just holding itself in place here. And there's so much wriggle room. Okay. First one's the hardest one because we've really got to get that one locked in. The rest of them are a lot easier as we work our way along. Okay, so that's fine. Goes to there. Now, we will eventually trim these exactly to the edge and they disappear. Like you can't see any of my pins there. Like there's a pin here, there's a pin there. There's lots of pins. You can't see them. But while I'm working, I found it was better to leave a little bit out. Right? Just in case you've got to come back, because sometimes they fall off, or sometimes you realise, oh damn, that was wrong back there and I need to adjust my hole. And the thing is, the hole which you're going to adjust is only going to be the one on the bumper. More of that later. I was quite lucky later on, I got in a rhythm and I didn't make that many mistakes. Okay, so moving along, I'll skip one of these and I'll just do my next hole here. So I'll just drill that in. Hopefully the plastic won't be as thick here. No, it wasn't. Must have been a big chunky thick thing there. That other one. Okay, so that's that one. And I've got lots of visual aids doing it this way because I can see things, I can see what's going on, and this is what I need. So there it is. Double check my brass rod in the hole as always. It's going to fit. Yes, okay. Like with everything, like everything you do in your model, unless you're a Tamiya kit builder and you never ever dry fit anything, you just put it together because Mr. Tamiya has done all the hard work for you. Okay, so I need my next one. It's going to be there. And these pencil marks I'm making, they will disappear. They'll literally rub off. Plus, with the wash on, you'll never see them. So I actually need this one there. Now, I just found it was easier to always drill in the middle of the bumper. Then I'm consistent. I'm doing the same thing. This is what I'm going to do, right? So finding a spot to get started. There we go. There's a spot. Again, essentially you're just wriggling it through. Not actually drilling so much as worrying a hole. Right, so there it is. And this again, see how much that's sliding around? You wouldn't want that to have a tiny pin at this stage, just in case it rolled off. So can I find my hole? I think that's it there. You really need to get your rod in straight away into the hole. Okay, so there it is. That's in there. Now I'll probably use a toothpick to apply this time. So getting some CA glue on my toothpick. I'll now have that ready. And again, find your hole. Pop it in. Press it up. Okay. And that's essentially the technique. It looks really easy and looks really simple. Well, it is. But it took me a while to get there. As I said, I tried shorter rods. I tried putting the rods on the vehicle first and then trying to push the cotton on. All that happened was the rods would bend and snap off. But this way of drill the hole, line it up, you can see by sight exactly where it's going to sag and sit. And if I decided, oh, that's not really good enough, right, I can remove this. I would actually snap the rod off. I wouldn't even try rethreading on that rod on a new hole. I would snap the rod off, right, re-drill my hole through the CA glue, then basically drill my new hole in the bumper, and then again, same process, push my rod through in my new hole and CA glue. And away I go, working my way down. So I will do that now. I will just work my way through all of them, and eventually I'll get exactly the same look as the other side. Now I have my bumpers secured, and I think I actually went on better this side than the other side. And as you can see, there was a lot of wriggle room. I could play around. If they came loose, I could pop them back on. Not a real problem. Now that I'm pretty sure that's it, I don't want to take those off ever again. That's it. They're going to stay there. So what I'll do is I will cut the pins because basically they're not moving. And the only thing I'm going to do is probably put a little bit of white glue in there later on. So to cut the pins, I'll do one that's easy for you to see, say this one. Okay, I would push up hard against the fabric bumper so that I'm actually getting tighter than I need to be. and where was it? It's here. It will actually disappear down inside the fabric because I've literally squeezed the fabric, pushing the blade against it. I keep these just for cutting wire, by the way. Don't worry, I'm not wrecking a set of sprue cutters. These are my wire cutting sprue cutters. Or at least they're wire in here, and I actually use the tips for cutting rigging line. The very points of these are actually the best for cutting rigging line after I've CA glued. That's another story. So all I've got to do now is cut those off, and it's basically going to have the look that I had on the other side. So push, trim, shoot yourself, push, trim, shoot yourself. Yes, you should really. I mean, I'm sitting here in a bloody sarong. You wouldn't believe it, would you? No, it's been we've had a huge cyclone going through actually up north. It wasn't quite as ferocious as everyone thought, but I've had about 3 inches of rain the last couple of days, which is about 75 mil. By the way, so as you can see, they're just disappearing into there. Push, trim, bing, shot the cat. I'll find those later. There we go. It's as easy as that. Now I've left the back one in still because I have a little bit of fiddling and faffing to do at the back here because my two bumpers are coming together and I've got to join them, but they're a bit frayed from all the work and the messing around that I've done. So I'm going to retwist and white glue those and let them set overnight so that I've got a couple of, again, tapered pointed ends, because that one and that one. And I'll leave that great big rod in, because that could require quite a little bit of fiddling and moving. So the long rod's going to give me less chance of it all ravelling off and then the whole thing falling apart. But look, I think you'll see those bumpers are done, essentially. And all I've got to do now is basically just get a wash on them and maybe a little bit of a tidy up. Bit of a rain wash on the outside of the schlepper, a couple of wipers for the windows. Oh, look, and there's a few things to throw inside the cabin to break it up. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. So let me do what I need to do here, and I'll come back and see you as we put the final touches to the Land Wasser Schlepper. It's been mere seconds for you, but I've slept overnight, and in the cool of the morning here with the rain stopped, you may have noticed in the earlier parts of this video there was the sound of rain. The birds are all drowned out. But you might be able to hear them now. They've all been singing and carrying on this morning quite happily after the rain. Now, a bit of detail painting. I leave my detail painting until the morning because my eyes are sharper and my hands tend to be a lot steadier. So I've put some silver here on the mirrors. They were actually only dry fit. I hadn't actually spent it on, which is good. So they could come off and I can re-silver the mirrors on those. I've painted, eye-strainingly difficultly, I've painted the rubbers on the wipers. Yes, the little wiper blades that go on, they'd be painted. So basically, they'd been painted the light sort of grey blue colour. And yes, I've just put a little bit of anthracite on that. I think it's called. Is it anthracite? No, it's whatever that is. It's not a black and it's not a grey. It's very dark, but it's perfect. I usually use it for rubber on wheels, so it's my rubbery colour. Now for the navigation lights, which are going to be green and red respectively, they're going to be, well, this thing's already painted dark grey, so if you try to put red or green on top of that, it's going to be bloody near impossible. We have to put about 15 coats of the bloody stuff on. So an old trick, which I use a lot, is to paint first with white. Put a couple of white coats on, which will go on a lot easier, amazingly. Don't know if it's the thickness of the pigment or what it is, but you put a couple of white coats on which show up really well, and then when we put the red and the green on, it'll go on just with one or two coats and look beautiful. It's an old trick. It's an old trick. I'm an old bugger. I learn a lot of old tricks. Now the bumpers have had overnight to set because I put them to dry, and you can see the join I've got now here is spot on. It matches the photos. It looks pretty good. And coming around to the stern of the schlepper, I've only actually had a clamp in the middle there for it to hold its shape. Now, there's lots of photos of how they're attached and how they are, but I rather like one I found where there was kind of a bump in the middle like this. And at the moment, this is only pinned there and pinned there and pinned there, sorry, going out of frame, pinned there and pinned there, and that one you can see. It's the one we did yesterday, or for you only moments ago. So I've actually just let that set in itself. It's sitting there in midair. I don't even think I need to pin it. I might just leave it for now and see how it goes. If it ever sags, I can run a pin in. I did have to retwist this part because that, as I showed, was all frayed, and basically it needed to be tightened up, twisted, and I put a point on it. I tapered the end, and I tapered the end of the other one. And I've lucked out in that my two bumpers match up and mate here at the back, and pretty well give a seamless join. Now, some of the schleppers can't even speak this morning. It's too early. Got to have some more coffee. Some of the schleppers that I researched and had photos of show the sides ending or just coming round, and then a piece run across the back. Some of them don't. Some of them show this continuous, and they're obviously joined in the middle. There are infinite variations on how they would have put the bumpers, so I'm not going to stress that mine isn't exactly like some photo. Well, they just put these damn things on however they could. And really, you got plenty of artistic license to do whatever you want. That's how I'm going to do mine, and I'm very happy with that. I'm very pleased with that. So, yeah, that's all looking really good. My next trick is going to be, it's getting harder and harder to know where to touch and hold on this. Really got to hold at the least. My next trick is going to be staining those bumpers. And to do that, I've actually, I looked through my whole bloody stash here of washes by Life Colour, which are the nice water-based ones that I enjoy. That's their aqua pigments or liquid pigments. And I've got about 20 of those. Not one single colour suits what I need to match the box art. Because essentially, it's the box art I love. And that's what I'm going with as far as colours. Because there's very few colour pictures of schleppers. None from the war that I could find. And the only colour ones are museum pieces. Which, you don't know about the accuracy of those. So, all right, well, let's get on with staining those bumpers. And then I can come back and put the final coat of paint on the detail parts, and we're done. Now, to get the colour that I wanted on those bumpers, I found using these oils, if I mixed equal yellow ochre and burnt umber, and I've just used some Tamiya thinner, which wasn't my first choice. I tried to do this with water first. They're supposed to be water soluble, and they do to a certain extent. But I think if you're going to do water soluble, you first got to leach the oils out of these, as I've shown in videos when I did dot filtering. You leach them out on a bit of cardboard first. But I was too impatient, and I tried to do some water-based ones, and it's an effect, but it actually looks very furry. The pigments just stayed clumped, and that could be useful for something else actually. That wouldn't be bad on a road. That's almost a dirty, dusty look, almost like putting mud on a vehicle. So that's an interesting effect. I'll remember that next time. Well, what I wanted was more this look. So that's what I'm after, and that's what I've got, and that's pretty well the colour that I wanted for my bumpers, and it matches the photo. I've actually put it up. Well, box art. I've actually put it up against the box art, and it matches. So that's where I'm going. So it's going to be a stark contrast to where we are at the moment with the schlepper. But let's see if I can, very carefully this morning, apply my mix. Now there's been no official sort of amounts. I've just kind of slurped some thinner in, and then I've put my equal parts. We'll see how we go. It might be a bit thick. I noticed it was a bit thick going on there, so I might put another imperial slurp of the Tamiya thinner in and see how I go. Better to always go 2 thin coats than 1 thick coat. All right, so let's slop some thinner, slop some washing on my bumpers. And it's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? We're going to wash them and make them dirty. So here we are finally. The schlepper is all finished. I've got that stain, that wash on my bumpers. It's had time to dry. It's mellowed out nicely into pretty well the same colour that's on the box art. Well, it's close enough, and it does match in, and the colour palette's very similar to what I've been doing. My tracks look great. I'm really happy with the mud effect there, the little bit of splash up. I didn't bother to do any rain streaking on the cabin. I had a look again at the box art. It was very clean. I'm pretty happy with this, but I'm going to leave it a while and just have a look, have a think about it. So this is where I'm going to call it pretty well finished for this video. And there it is, its big smiley tooth or snarly tooth mouth. I've put a coil of rope there on the front just to break that up, a bit of a monotonous sort of thing. I have seen them with drums on the rear here, and I may try and source a drum and sort of stash it, stow it and tie it up there to the rear. That might sort of do something with that large area of grey that's doing nothing there. But the overall, I'm very happy. And there's been a lot of work on into this, as you would know if you've seen the whole series of videos. If not, go back and watch the bloody things, yes. Make sure you watch the ads. I need the money. But that's the Land Wasser Schlepper, guys. And it's been a lot of work, and it's been very rewarding. This is a lovely kit. So can't highly recommend. Well, I can highly. I can't recommend it enough. I'm speechless. Yes, this kit has been a joy to build, a lot of fun. It's been challenging, but in a good way. I've learned a lot. I've done a lot. I've laughed a lot. Yeah, it's been great. So the old schlepper, hey? It was a bit of a while between when I first assembled it and left it in the cupboard and then finished the assembly, put it together. But once I got onto the painting the camo, that's where I really started having fun. And it is a joy to build. And the bumpers, I'm so glad I didn't go and buy the resin ones, waste my money. And instead, I challenged myself to see if I could weave some bumpers. And I am so happy with those. They might just need a bit more squeezing down the bow, but honestly, they were lashed anyway. So they're not actually, they wouldn't sit perfectly. They're lashed on. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope possibly some of the ideas that I come up with and the techniques I've showed are useful to you, and you might be able to apply them to something else. You might be able to improve on them, do something new. If you like the video, please click like. You didn't like the video? Still click like. Come on, be nice. Yes. You don't just go around clicking dislike all the time for no reason. Oh, I'm not feeling well tomorrow. I'll click dislike. Yeah. God, I can't believe people sometimes. Anyhow, who cares? I've finished my schlepper. There it is. And I'll end this video here, but we'll go out with a montage of images of the schlepper, and you can see some close-ups, interior, that sort of thing. Okay, well, that's it. It's goodbye from Australia, and it's hooroo from Harry Houdini.